Hey guys, here we are, the Quiggin Out MMA Podcast, and I have not one, but two incredibly special guests today. And I know you're all thinking, she's behind a drum set, and what is going on? Like, this is not MMA. No, it's not. This is episode 57, and I have the Godmother of Drumming, Dorothea Taylor, and I have the Jiu Jitsu Grandma, aka Elaine. So, how are we doing, everybody?
Doing great.
My camera just went, even my camera was excited to see everybody on the show. So, um, I just want to thank both of you coming on here. I know we talked about it a little bit before we got started, but the idea behind this is that, loving jujitsu, loving drumming, people think that once they get to a certain age that their passion is gone or their ability is gone. So I was going to go one by one and start with you, Dorothea. Talk about your journey as a drummer and who you are for the people who have probably never seen you, but I guarantee after this video are going to go watch everything you have to do.
Okay. Well, I was growing up and just loved music from like as far back as I could remember. And I started piano lessons when I was in third grade. And the whole time I was taking piano, I was watching the drummers that were in the drum and bugle corps in my hometown because we had all kinds of doings in the summertime. And I didn't live far from the football field that they would practice on. I could just go to the end of my street and look down over the hill and see them. And so I just always watched the drums, but no one that I knew of that was a female played drums. I never saw any females on TV. And so I just went along with the piano lesson thing. And I started saxophone in sixth grade because I couldn't switch over to drums because girls didn't play drums. And did that for a little while. And then by eighth grade, I said, I'm going to try out for the drum corps. I don't care what anyone says. I'm just going to go in the fall at the end of their, summer tour. And I'm just going to go and see what they say. Well, I walked in and signed my name, to play drums, and nothing was said. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I jumped right in, started practicing. I think we practiced 2 days a week that first year. Yes, 2 days a week in the wintertime. And like I bypassed everyone that had been in there already a year and a half. I just jumped right on because I loved it so much. I would go home and practice. And I had the musical ability, plus I had, those 6 years of piano behind me, so that kind of helped.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, started marching in the next summer. We did, parades and competitions, and I ended up staying in there for 6 years. And so I had plenty of experience with rudimental fundamentals, because when you're a drummer, you need to learn, just like you would on a piano, you learn notes and chords. Well, on drums, you learn the fundamental rudiments, which are like single stroke rolls, double stroke rolls, paradiddles, double paradiddles, 5-stroke rolls, and such and such. But so I got my good rudimental training. And then I got in a band right after I graduated high school. And we played 5 nights a week. And man, back then, that was in 1968. That was good money. $50 a night back in 68. I thought I was rich. And so I did that. And then I got in another band also. And we did like wedding receptions every weekend, especially in the summer.
Ooh.
And so I was making pretty darn good money. And then at 19, I fell in love and got married. And so I had to drop out of the drum corps because we were leaving, and we had to go cross country because he was stationed in the Air Force. But when I got out to where we were stationed, I looked up a music store and went there and asked him if I could start giving lessons. And I gave lessons there. I don't think I played in Oregon when we were there. I don't remember playing in a band, just on my regular drums at home. And then we moved here to Myrtle Beach in 1970 and got in a band like real quick. And I've been playing ever since with different bands, not touring or anything like that. I've never played on the road with, famous musicians or anything like that, but just with a group here, a group there, just doing different things and teaching. I started teaching drum lines to the local high schools and middle schools here. I still do that. And I have private lessons with virtual. Since COVID, I do virtual drum lessons during the week. And then Drumeo got a hold of me, and then I've had some viral videos, and it's just been crazy. Things have gone bonkers.
It really has. And if anybody doesn't know, like, how old are you now? Like, if you were playing in the 60s there. I know.
Yeah.
I asked the question no guy is supposed to ever ask. I know.
No, I'm 71. 71 and still playing drums.
Yeah, and in the last couple years, people have seen the Down with the Sickness, they've seen Blink 182, and they've seen the Chop Suey. So I'm gonna use that to kind of segue into Elaine, because I know you can hear it as someone who practices jujitsu. You're hearing you need the fundamentals, you need to learn the basics to start. So I want to talk about your journey and how you got to where you are today. And as you could see, the parallels are right there already.
That's true. I actually didn't start jiu-jitsu until I was 69. I'm 73 now, so I started late. My professor thinks I'm probably the oldest person to ever start jiu-jitsu, or certainly the craziest, maybe. But I'm a blue belt with 3 stripes on my belt. I've been doing it 4 years now, and man, I love it. Hard work. It's hard.
So why jujitsu? Like, again, at 69, why did you say, you know what, this is a good idea for me? Because I don't know anybody else who would do that.
Well, I actually, when my husband was in graduate school, when I was about 21, I took a judo course that lasted about 6 weeks. They just ran it at night. And it was a lot of fun. But when I got back to Birmingham, nobody taught it back then. So I just forgot about it. And then when I was 69, I saw some girl in a gi and asked her, what kind of martial arts she practiced. And she said jujitsu. And I went, I like judo better because I didn't know the difference. And she said, well, my gym teaches that. And I went, oh, really? So I just called the gym and said, do you take old people to do judo? And the professor said, okay. So I went and started the judo classes. And then after a month or two, the professor said, why don't you try jiu-jitsu, which was on the next mat? And he taught both classes. So I did judo and jiu-jitsu for quite a while. And then I just sort of settled into jiu-jitsu, which I love. I like them both, though, truthfully.
Yeah. And I think it's funny that you brought up the forgot thing, because again, I've been involved, covering MMA. I fell in love with MMA in 2008. So I was late to the party too, where it already had, kind of brought up. And it wasn't until probably 5 or 6 years ago that my dad said, well, I took judo when I was a kid. And I went, you did what? How has this never come up in conversation?
Oh, wow.
And he said, oh, I just forgot about it, or I didn't think about it, because some people don't relate the two. And it's funny how it all kind of works, especially with you guys, in the sense that, like, my dad's a drummer. He raised me as a drummer. I found jujitsu on my own, but it was because I was watching it going, why doesn't he just get up? Like, I'm yelling at the TV, just get up. Just get up. And Dorothea, that'd be the equivalent of being like, why can't you do these paradiddles at 150 beats per minute? Like, why can't you do that right off the bat? And then I started to train, and I went, oh, that's why, because you can't move. You cannot move when you're down there. So
True.
And I just love, like I said, hearing the parallels between the two, because it is a fundamental aspect. So talk about, you could both kind of chime in when you want to. I don't ever want to focus on one or the other, but talk about what it is to have the knowledge and be able to do this and teach people. Like, do you come across people who are a little skeptical because you don't look like the normal teacher or the normal jujitsu practitioner? Because Elaine, I've seen your medals, And I wish I had a picture of him right now because you've got some medals already. So talk about what it's like to, to go into these forums where there's much younger competitors or much younger, you know, students and having to kind of impart that knowledge on them.
In competition, especially at my age, my Master 7 class is 61 and older, and there's rarely anybody in that thing. So I usually have to go down to Master 6 or Master 5 and maybe up a weight class. So I get killed. I mean, I may get a second or third medal, but I've already been But hey, I can step on the mat. So as long as if I can get to the 5 minutes, I feel like I've done pretty good, especially with a much younger or heavier opponent.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Absolutely.
But I can't teach like Dorothea. I mean, she's done this. She is a master. She's like a black belt.
Yeah. She's a black belt in drumming.
That's right.
You've got a new nickname right here. Elaine said it first.
I'll have to add that to my profile.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
So Dorothea, the same thing. Like, what's it like, being at the point where you said Drummio approached you? And if you go to Drummio's YouTube page, we talked about this earlier, Dorothea's face is right there along with all these other people. So, what's it like to, be on a platform like that, and you even have the TikTok going? So I'll let you talk about that because you told me a little bit about that before we started.
Yeah. So, of course, my children were on Instagram, and my little grandson was on TikTok. He's 13 now, but he was like 11 then. He was talking about TikTok, and I would look at some of his little videos. Of course, they weren't, music involved, but they were just silly things. And he said, "Grandma, you should, put something up and just see what happens." And so I just did it for the fun of it. And I think I might have done paradiddles and just like how fast you could go with a paradiddle, just to let people know that, at my age, I can still do paradiddles, but I didn't know what would happen with the TikTok entry, the post. And I did the same thing with Instagram. And then they just took off. And one of the videos, it just had like 500,000 just in a short while. And that was a couple of years ago on Instagram. And so,
Oh, that's great.
and that was just within a few days. And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is really working. I'll have to put some more up. And so then I get a message just on Instagram, just a DM saying, "This is so-and-so from Drummio, and I'd like to talk to you." And I knew what Drummio was because I had seen some stuff on, I wasn't a member of Drummio, but I had seen, I think, some stuff on Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder what they want. And so I text him my telephone number, and the phone rang a little while later, and I could see that it was coming in from Canada. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is Drummio. And so they said, do you want to come out and do some videos here? And I was like so excited. I couldn't believe it. I said, are you sure you want me? Because you have top-notch drummers that come to you. And are you sure you want me? He's like, yes, we definitely want you. And so they had some things planned, which I did not know. And so when I got there, he said, we're going to do X amount of videos, just some little instruction videos, but we're going to do some couple of big things. He said, and we've got some plans for you. So, I went to bed that night and went back to the studio the next morning, and then they laid out the plan that I was going to have to do some acting. And I was like, whoa, I'm not an actor. He said, so we're going to go to a music store, and we're going to be, pretend we're looking for some drums, and they're going to veer us off. So they had to tell the guy, the salesman, what to say when we got there. And then we're going to go to a church, and, so the whole thing was laid out for me. And he said, when we went to dinner that night after we finished filming it, he said, I bet that thing is going to probably draw about 100 million. I mean, a million views. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, no. And he said, yeah, I bet this will. Well, it went way beyond. If you look it up on Facebook, Drumeo, it has over 85 million on that Godmother, the Down with the
Wow.
Sickness. And that's not the only place it is. You know, it had so many on YouTube and they took it down because of copyright, but then they put it back like a week later. So we lost like 25 million and then we had to start over getting it to climb back up again. So I don't know how much it has on YouTube now, but it had 25 million and they took it down. I was so mad.
And that blows my mind nowadays, and
Oh,
I'm just
wow.
going to kind of throw myself in here because there are people who get millions of views by watching someone else's video and reacting to it. And
Yeah.
actually, one of yours is one of those videos, and I
Uh-huh.
think it's Andy Rooney. It's probably not his name, but in this
Yeah.
moment, that's what I'm going to say. But
Uh-huh.
it's him watching you and going, okay, okay. But you see that video and you see, you know, at the end where you're like, I've been through all of this. I've had everybody look at me and say, oh, the pianos are over there, or oh, are you here for the choir practice? And
Yeah.
you're holding a snare drum and a bass drum, like.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Elaine, you kind of would run into the same thing if you showed up not in your gi, and they're like, oh, you know, it's one of your kids here, or you one of your students, and you're like, no, it's me. Like, why would
That's
you
right.
think?
Yeah.
So I think
People don't expect it.
no.
No, they don't.
No.
And I think what the best part about the two of you is that, I mean, obviously you're an inspiration for others. You know, if you look at, you know, between the two of you, you have 400,000 Instagram followers, which I guarantee neither one of you ever thought would be.
No.
You're like, okay, whatever. You didn't think you would influence people in the way that you do. So what's it like to be in that kind of role where you might not even realize that you're an influence to somebody, but there are people out there seeing you going, well, if she can do this, I can do this. Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, for me, I get so many comments from young people. And the reason I know they're young is because I will click onto their profile. And a lot of them, their comments are real kind of almost troubled, like they look forward to seeing something positive on Instagram or TikTok. And so they're thanking me for making their day happier and things like that. And it kind of makes me happy that I'm there for them. But then it kind of makes me worried thinking, you know, why are there so many young people that are acting like, you know, they're having a bad day and they're depressed and, you know, they have anxiety and I feel like I don't have any of that. I wake up in the morning, I'm just glad to be here and, you know, glad to be able to do my thing. So with all their comments, I like to read the comments, but it I found out that I have inspired a lot of people and young people just to continue on with their life. And then I've inspired people that are older that used to play drums and they see that I can do it. And so they're picking up their sticks and starting all over again. So, you know, just it brightens my day just to see the positive comments out of the DMs and stuff.
Wow, that was I'm like, hold on a second.
That's right.
Hold on a second. Like
Yeah.
that was gut wrenching there. Like that really
Mhm.
touched, you know, in a moment where, like you said, that you kind of touched on it quickly, but I caught it where you're like, there were some people who were ready to kind of like not be here anymore.
Yeah. And
And they
it's happened
saw
a lot.
Mm. Mm.
And so I make sure that I comment back. And then if they comment back on that comment, I'll even comment again just to make them feel good for the day. And, you know, it just makes me feel like, gee, I've helped someone.
Gee, that's great.
yeah, absolutely. And Elaine, you know, same question when it comes to you, because again, 25,000 people are following you. And I couldn't even imagine being like, what? So what's it like for you being in jujitsu? Like you said, now 4 years. I got to really catch up because I'm right at the 4-year mark too. So I guess I got to catch up.
Well, obviously, Dorothea and I are not coasting through our later years. We're active and doing something fun. My grandkids think jujitsu is too hard. They don't want to try it. But I get a lot of messages too from people who think, well, maybe I'm too old because I'm in my late 30s, early 40s. They said, and then I see yours and you're in your 70s. I go, well, maybe I'm not too old. So that's very, inspiring that you just keep on keeping on. Don't quit just because you think you're too old to do something.
Right.
It's
Well, do you ever go like to a doctor's office or even to Walmart or wherever and see these people that are younger than we are, but they look horrible. They look horrible.
yeah.
And then they find out that I'm much older than them and they're, walking with canes and all wrinkled up. And it's like, what are you doing with your life? Why have you just, given up and do you just
That's
sit
right.
in your rocking chair all day long?
Mhm.
I can't do
Yeah.
that. I don't want to do that.
No, I can't either. I wouldn't be on a mat wrestling guys and girls if I wanted to sit in a rocking chair and knit. That just
No,
doesn't
that
appeal
doesn't
to me
appeal
at
to
all.
me either.
Well, I think that's being a drummer. There's the concern of carpal tunnel, and being in jujitsu, there's the concern of hurting all the time, everywhere.
joint.
Yeah, oh yeah. Bruises. I just broke my toe a few weeks ago.
Was it the pinky? Because I broke the pinky toe.
What?
Got caught right in the mat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, mine got caught under a very big guy and broke the toe.
Well, and the funniest thing about that is no one in the gym looks at you and goes, "Oh my gosh." They go, "Anybody got any tape?" You just tape it
I
back up
didn't
and
know
you're fine.
I didn't know I broke it until, a few weeks later. I kept thinking, oh, it's just sore, but it stayed sore too long. So I had to go get it x-rayed and they said, oh no, you broke it.
Yeah, I didn't know mine was broken either. I went to my dad's house for dinner and I took off my shoes and he said, "When did you break your toe?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And I looked down and it was purple. And I went, "Oh, I guess that must have happened on the mat that night. It hurt." And he was like, "Just tape it." He's like, "If you go to the doctor, they're just going to say it's broken and do the same thing you're about to do." So the question is,
just tape it to the next toe and go on.
I think the Walmart story is going to be the funniest thing that came out of this. Like we went from like heartfelt to like looking at other people like, and I think you're right. I think people think it's too late. They think that the biological clock is set for certain things and certain items only. All right, at this age you have to be doing this. At this age you have to be a grandma, and at this age you can't be playing drums and wrestling larger men on jujitsu mats.
But we're proving that you can.
That's right. That's exactly right, Dorothea.
And that's why getting the two of you together was it was just one of those moments where I've been following both of you for a while. Obviously, I have interest in both of what you're doing. Not only the hobby itself or the profession that it's turned into, but Elaine, you and I know, and Dorothea, it's going to be the same way. You could have the worst day of your life. You get on the mat or you get behind that set and you just play something. And everything else just fades away.
It does.
And I've had those days. I used to work child welfare, and child welfare is one of the hardest jobs. Anyone who's doing it out there now, it's still one of the hardest jobs I've ever done in my life, and I would never do it again. But I had those days where I'm like, you're not sleeping for a couple days. Oh, I can't make it to class. And you just go and it's guard passing night. It's something very, it's never easy. And by the end of the night, you went, what was I upset about again? And you just leave. So talk about that feeling and being able to impart that on other people, because again, you see people and they don't believe it. she's not a drummer. She can't do jujitsu. I mean, Elaine's almost getting her purple belt here. Like I say, the way I'm watching you, it'll be in the next year. So that's my goal too. So maybe we'll get it together.
Oh yeah. Hey, we can do it.
It makes me want to train even more now. Because now I'm like, well, now I got to do it. She's going to be.
I try to go to the gym about 3 times a week. So I bet Dorothea drums a lot too.
Yeah. Sometimes, I don't feel like coming up here because this is up above our garage. And I'll be like, I'm not going up there today. But if someone texts me and asks me a question about one of our lessons in our book, and I have to come up and go to the actual lesson, or they want me to maybe send them a picture of the next week's lesson or whatever. And that as soon as I walk up here and I see all these drums and everything, and I come around here and I sit down, I'll just like start tapping and thinking, and then I'll get my sticks. And before I know it, I'm playing a little bit, and it could turn into, 20 minutes or 40 minutes. But I left and went back downstairs and I felt more invigorated. Yeah. Even if sometimes if I've had a migraine headache, I'll come up and play and I go downstairs and my migraine is gone. It's just the tension is gone.
Which breaks all the rules of physics right there.
Yep. But it's music. It's food for the soul, I guess.
Yes.
And I think that's how we feel going on the mats. When you go out there and people say, oh, it's just a bunch of sweaty people, rolling around to do the, yeah. Elaine's laughing because we hear that all the time. And Dorothea, you hear it. Oh, that's just noise. That's not music. But when you're there and you're having to think about what the next step is and kind of flow roll, it's no different than if you were to, someone said, just pick up the sticks and start playing. No lesson plan, nothing in mind, just play. And you got to play whatever you wanted. You still have to think about it, but you let your body just kind of flow. And I feel like it's the exact same thing when we're there, except instead of sticks, we're using hands, but we're still using grips. We're still having to use fundamentals. You're looking at the exact same thing, whether people can, equate the two or not. So it's pretty fascinating just to hear the two of you talk. Especially the migraine thing. I don't think I'd ever believe that if I saw it anywhere else, but it's you, so I guess I will.
It actually works. It actually works. It's you just release that tension and your mind to somewhere else, I guess, and it just goes away. It's crazy.
Well, and I'm gonna do it just because I know you have another camera set up there. Oh. So would you mind playing a little something for us?
Okay, I'll do a little. I'll put it on the other camera. I'll let you see.
So this is the cool part.
Wow, I love drummers. They're my favorite part of a band.
See, I didn't. I love those stacks, by the way, but that was fantastic.
Thank you.
We were both just like, yep. And again, I know neither one of you were like, what are we doing tonight? No, this is just going to be off the cuff. But as soon as I saw that overhead cam, I said, I need to know. I need to see it because I need to see it in action. So Elaine, you just mentioned the drummer's your favorite part of a band. So who are some of your favorite bands or favorite drummers if you had to pick them out? You don't have to say names, but if
I wouldn't know how, but we have in our church, we have a contemporary band, and the drummer's by far the most fascinating man in the band. We watch the drummers more than anybody else just because drummers they just got a lot of personality when they drum. They just do.
Well, that contemporary Christian music is, it's full out drumming.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, yeah.
They get down. I play the organ at my church, so ours is just boring hymns.
Oh, they're missing something. I took my granddaughter to see Stomp. That was amazing.
Oh
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
yeah,
nothing but sound. It's great. I love
yeah.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the stomp, getting to do that, we got to do that in high school when I was in band, and we, it was, there was, I remember going home after the show and my chest was red because of doing this the whole time. I'm like, why does this hurt? Oh, okay. But you're right. It's music is something different when you can isolate it and you can interpret it in a different way. You know, drumming's not for everybody. Different classifications of music are for everybody. But you're right. The contemporary Christian music hits a different way
Ooh, yeah.
because that drummer has to kind of ignite everybody and keep them going
Yes.
without just
And he
being like,
does. Or
without just
she.
playing the,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way.
See, I wouldn't even know what to do because it's totally different. And I'm not familiar with the contemporary Christian music. And so I get these calls from this guy who is like the music director at one of the churches not too far away, saying, "Can you come play and fill in for us next Sunday?" Thankfully, I have the excuse, "No, I'm playing in my own church," because I don't know those songs because we don't have those songs in our church.
You're like,
So,
we're going for the hymnal 152. Let's go.
yes, that's what I'm doing is hymns, which I still love. I love the organ.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love it. But the contemporary Christian, I would feel that I wouldn't be donating what should be. And I think he must think that I know those songs, but I don't. So I'm like, no, I can't do it.
You're like, yeah, not really sure
No,
what they're doing here, but
yeah,
yeah, sure.
nah, no, I can't do it. Sorry.
If only they knew. You just get behind the drum set, nobody's looking. Let me just play a little bit. What was that? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Uh,
So, Dorothea, looking at some of your recent videos, you're playing, rock songs, metal songs, kind of like I consider like Blink 182 at that point. It's almost like a thrash punk kind of setting.
yeah.
So, what's it like to play those songs? Because you look like you're having a blast, and obviously Drumeo built it up, and
Oh, they did, yeah, because they're the ones who chose those songs, and so I was like, I don't know those songs, so I was having to really think hard on, the parts, what those parts were, but it
yes.
was fun. It was fun.
So for you, in like, who inspires you, or who brought you, into the point where what are you listening to today is what I really should be asking.
Mm,
Like, what motivates you today?
oh, well, because I follow so many drummers on Instagram and, Drumeo and things like that, so, I have several favorite drummers, like Todd Zuckerman from Styx, and, I love Benny Greb and,
Mhm.
uh, Keith Carlock, I love him, and, I mean, Buddy Rich was always my favorite. Of course, he's been gone a long time, but he was one of my favorites. And there's just so many. Vinny Colaiuta is like my one of my favorite top drummers. He's so amazing. And a lot of these drummers just don't play with one group. They're just
Mhm.
a drummer that get hired out for either recording sessions or, on the road with different musicians, but they're excellent drummers. So I like to follow a wide variety of drummers.
Well, and Elaine, I know it's not the same questions, but really, like, who inspires you? Are there jujitsu matches that you're watching, or old footage that you watch and you're like, oh my gosh, like, how can I get into this? Or is it just kind of going with the flow and taking everything that your professor is teaching you and putting that onto the mats, especially when you start competing?
Well, we have quite a few black belts in my gym. It's a very big gym. Um, and they really are my heroes. Watching them and working with them, it's been amazing for me. They make me laugh. They make me work hard. one of the things Dorothea and I have in common, we have to think hard to do what we do. I mean, and do it, not just think it, but we have to do it also. And
Mhm.
that really at our age, for me especially, I think that's very helpful to keep my brain active, because I'm trying to think of what I do and then do it at the same time. And I'm playing offense and defense on the mat, as you know. And that's, it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
Literally, it's a stretch.
Yeah, for sure. My professors toss me around here or there and yon, I get flipped over their heads and when they're having fun,
And
Most
again,
of the guys,
it's not ever
Yeah.
something you thought you'd be doing.
well, no, definitely not.
But I also think you touched on a really important point in the sense that, you talked about, oh, crocheting, that's not for me. Crocheting for some people was something to keep them busy, but it wasn't something to really keep you active. Obviously with drums, you're using all your limbs. Jiu-jitsu, you're using all your limbs. You're having to really think about what you're doing. You're having to remember what you're doing, especially with Dorothea teaching and having to make sure that what she's teaching is the correct way. I'm sure it's all second nature to you at this point. Like if we just started yelling random rudiments at you, be like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I do this all the time. And I think in
Mm.
jujitsu, you start to get that way. And I know I noticed it when I got to blue belt, is that my body started to do things I wasn't telling it to do. Getting in those moments where, you know,
Mhm.
you felt that one little inch of space and you took it and your
Yes.
body did it for you and you went,
Mm.
oh. And I'm sure, Dorothea, the same thing. You were playing a fill and your hand just went for a symbol. It didn't need to be in there, but you did it and you went, you know what? That sounded good. I like
That's
that.
pretty cool. Yeah.
And you start to feel that. So it's amazing to hear the two of you kind of go back and forth about that, because it really is something that keeps you sharp. And it goes, I'm just going to keep bringing up the Walmart argument because that was the funniest thing ever. But you're right. You'll see people, and even at my age, I see people and I go, what happened? Like, what? No. Like, what do more, do something, and
Yeah.
it's never
Do
too late. And they have those charts of, all Oprah and Bill Gates and all the failures they went through. And when they didn't really make success until 40, 50, 60 years old. And it
Mhm.
really shows that there isn't a set schedule for your life.
Right. Right.
No, you're right.
And I think
My
each one of you are showing that every day. So thank you.
my professor told me I might be a black belt by the time I'm 80. I figure I'll have my little walker. I'll go to the mat, leave it on the side.
Well, and again, I don't know anybody, and I've been following this for a while, who started as late as you did, and I don't want to say it that way, but who had that passion.
It's true.
One of the black belts at our dojo is 71, and he didn't start till he was 50, and I said, "Wow, that was crazy."
Yeah.
And then to hear your story and what you've been going through, and if you watch any of the videos, Jiu Jitsu Grandma on Instagram, for anybody who's not watching and can't see us, you're getting thrown around, but you're holding your own against people 30 years younger than you. Easy. So that's got to make you feel a little bit good. Just a little bit.
It does. It does. Most of the really big guys mainly defend against me till they get sick of me, and then they just toss me off. But if they weigh 240, what am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Occasionally, I can catch a white belt that doesn't know much and probably choke him out.
Again, a phrase I never thought I'd hear in my life. I'll just catch a wave and choke him out.
Choke them out.
Because she's got that big smile on her face, and everybody thinks it's a violent art. The same thing with drumming. People think, oh, it's angry, it's loud, people don't see the art behind it. And I'm just
Yeah.
going to point out Meryl Streep, because she did this a couple years ago and angered everybody. But she said mixed martial arts is not the arts. And I think she was 100% wrong when she said that, because an art to somebody is drumming, it's jujitsu, it's photography, it's podcasting, it's interview, it's whatever you want it to be. And I feel
Right.
like it's a very open thing. And to kind of disown or dissuade people from being passionate about something that makes them happy, I feel like is a disservice in itself. That
Agree.
was my
I
little
agree. Yeah,
pedestal there. So
I agree.
I do. Me too.
and again, it's inspiring to talk to both of you because you're both laughing and I could see both of you going back and being like, "Yep, yep, that's happened." So really, what I wanted to come down to is thank both of you. I don't want to keep you too long. I honestly could probably talk to both of you for hours on end. But I think we should do this again. I think we should try to get together and kind of follow up. Um, Dorothea, I've got to ask you, what was it like to do the drum off with Questlove? Because I have to know. And was that your idea or theirs?
um, well, it was kind of both, but the piece for the In the Air Tonight,
Hmm.
Jimmy did mention to me when he came in I heard and in my green room that I was in, and I said yes, and it was Jimmy Fallon. He comes in and introduces himself, and so he said, "How about I I want you to play, do you know In the Air Tonight? Because I've seen your video," or somebody from the staff showed him. He said, "Because when Questlove was supposed to play it, he messed up, he bombed it. And so I want you to be able to do it." So I said, "Yeah, I can do it." And so I that was in the plan. But when I got there, uh, we were talking and I said, "How about like if we say let's do a drum off between the two of us?" And they're like, "Yeah, because we agree. We already had that in our mind. We
Oh
want
yeah.
you to battle him back and forth." And so I didn't have anything planned. I didn't know what I was going to play. I wasn't nervous. I was excited. I wasn't nervous, but so he's like, "Go ahead." And so I just come up with like a little funk groove. And then I said, "I'm going to do my double stroke roll, my famous double stroke roll that get got me the millions and millions of views." So I did that, and that's when Jimmy was going crazy. He was pacing around. It's like, "Oh."
Wow. That's
So
great.
that was fun. So
Mm.
It,
then at the very end, we got to play a little bit after I did the In the Air Tonight
mhm.
because it went out to commercial. So I got to play with the band for a few seconds, which was fun. But the segment went so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it would, and that drum off thing has become kind of a staple of the show. Like they're not doing it too often,
Yeah,
but we talked earlier about the when Will Ferrell did that with Chad Smith, and I
yeah.
thought that was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen in my life because they looked identical.
They sure do. They look so much alike.
And we were talking about that before, so I had to pull out this. So I already showed Dorothea. So this was when I met Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was 10 years old. And I said it'd be good if I just have a pair of drumsticks nearby because Dorothea's here and I'm not gonna play anything. I don't need to I don't need that. But we talked about being having some weird tendencies and being a left-handed person, but a right-handed person. And Elaine, the same thing. When you're doing grips, when you get that one person who's a lefty instead of a righty, you're going, "What are you doing?"
Okay.
I know I'm left-handed, so that's there you go.
I had a 50-50 chance of that happening, and I still didn't see it coming. Oh my gosh. So, Elaine, are you competing anytime soon? Because if you guys haven't seen this, the stack of medals, um, I have never competed. My goal was to compete as a white belt, and then COVID hit, and we were training with masks on. So we literally had masks on, and we were training, which is the
Oh
worst thing.
no.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And
no.
the
I
the
never had to
class
do
was
that.
much smaller
Oh
by then.
no.
And I remember I said, okay, I said, I'm going to compete this year. Things are going to open back up. Hindsight, they didn't. and we had a promotions, and they called my name up for my blue belt, and I was like, no. I was like, I wanted to compete as a white belt. I was almost sad in that moment, but I definitely, the idea is to compete. But I'm not light, if you couldn't tell. And like you said, when you're going in when you're going in and you have a specific weight class or the master class, if there's nobody in your weight, you're gonna have to go up or down. Well, the class I would be in is 230 plus, and I really don't want to go against somebody who's like 320 pounds. It's not my wheelhouse. So I'm gonna drop that weight, and then we'll go ahead. The first thing I'm gonna do is compete. So I did want to give a shout out. There is a tournament tomorrow with a few of my teammates that are actually competing in a jiu-jitsu tournament. So best of luck to all of you. You're probably not going to see this until afterwards. So if you won, hooray. If not, I'll just edit that part out. The real joke is that I don't.
Tournament in Orlando, but
Oh,
sorry.
What about Orlando?
Well, I signed up for Orlando Open, but there's nobody anywhere near me, so I probably will not be able to go. And my professors are not going to the World Masters this year. I went last year, but I don't want to go without my professor. I did last year, and it did not go as well as it would have been better had he been there to coach.
Yeah, it's wow. She just called you out, Coach. No, and I get that completely.
He had an emergency. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I hope you come to Orlando because I'm 2 hours from Orlando. So I would happily.
Oh.
Yeah. So going over there, and I know like Professor Ricardo Laborio, I know he's over in Orlando, and they do those invitational. I think that's where I need to get my feet wet with something smaller. Dorothea be the equivalent of doing like late night TV on like cable access versus Jimmy Fallon. Like I gotta build myself up to that. But I want you guys to take these last couple minutes and just talk about, sponsors, people who've inspired you or that continue to inspire you, and talk about your gym, your channel, TikTok, whatever it is that you want to talk about for the people that have continued to help you, live this dream that most people would only, dream of, or live this life that most people could dream of. See, now you got me like tongue twisted, and I shouldn't be doing that because both of you have been perfect. Just talk about, what's made this possible for you, or who's made this possible for you to continue to do what you love.
Who do you want first? Me?
Whoever wants to go first.
Well, I remember when I was a teenager, before I, got serious about dating or whatever, my goal was to become a famous drummer. And like I said, at 19, I got married to someone who, is not a musician. And then we had 3 children, and I know that he and all of his family just didn't understand why I wouldn't have stopped playing drums once I got married. But it was my dream to become a famous drummer. And so my dreams were just lost all these years. And so I've just been doing my thing, teaching drums and playing odd gigs here and there. And then, like I say, all of a sudden, social media. So I would like to just thank social media for being around, because without social media, I did a few things about 13 years ago on YouTube that did pretty well. But then I just kind of slowed down and didn't do anything on YouTube. But the social media with Instagram and TikTok have just been my dream come true. And it's afforded me all these opportunities. I did a cameo on Drew Barrymore show. I did the Nick Cannon show. I did Jimmy Fallon show. And I got introduced to these companies. And so now I'm fully endorsed with Peisty cymbals, Evans drumheads, ProMark sticks, Tamburo drums that are handmade in Italy. So I'm fully endorsed with all this beautiful equipment that only happened just because of what my fans have done to me for social media. And it's just like a dream come true.
Oh yeah. Wow. Mm.
And here I am pulling up the Vader stick. Sorry, Pro Mark. Sorry. But that's amazing. Like you said, social media, where social media can have a lot of evil. Social media can have a lot of negativity. It can really bring people down. But people definitely underestimate the reach that it has in inspiring people and, quite frankly, just keeping people alive. You know, we look at high school reunions are a thing of the past. Everybody's just on Facebook, and they kind of overlook that. But without Facebook,
Yeah.
without YouTube, we wouldn't know Dorothea and her talents. We wouldn't know about Elaine and her talents. You would just be someone else in your town. And maybe that's all you wanted to be. But Dorothea, you said you wanted to be a famous drummer, and I really think you made it. I really,
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
just saying it here.
For sure.
She's like, yeah, I know.
No, I didn't get to play with any really famous band like my dream was, but lots of people know me, so I guess I am famous.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I'm going to see the Aristocrats, the band, in 3 weeks because I got to see Marco Miniman do a drum clinic probably when I was 13 or 14, and they are coming to Tampa on my birthday.
Ooh,
And I
gosh.
said, I can't miss this. The tickets are $20. I said, no, I'm gonna
Wow.
go see Marco play. So for me, again,
That will
musicians,
be fun.
yeah, it's gonna be an excellent show. So Elaine, in the same token, like, who's driving you every day besides your own will to say, well, I can do this?
Well, honestly, my professor one summer said, Elaine, I'm going to take you to the World Masters Jiu Jitsu Championships. And I'm like, huh? And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, okay. And I didn't even have a blue belt. And I said, you have to be a blue belt to go to the Masters. And he said, well, you'll have a blue belt by then. So, I mean, just a few weeks before the Masters, I got a blue belt and went to the Masters in Las Vegas. I had 4 fights in 70 minutes. Won one, lost one, and tied 2, which was probably about the best I've ever done at that point.
Yeah.
So, and he's the one that suggested I get on Instagram. And my granddaughter, I didn't know what Instagram was. My granddaughter set it up, and she named me Jiu Jitsu Grandma. My granddaughter Mackenzie. So, and of course, that's become my name now. But it's really fun for me all the way around. I've been to the Pan American Games and the World Masters 2 or 3 times, I guess. COVID sort of cut us off for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But I love to compete. It's fun when I get to do it. It's nerve wracking, but as you will find out.
I was gonna say, it's nerve wracking to watch my teammates do it, just because I'm like, you have those moments where you have nights where you get smashed by every white belt in the room, and you're going, take back my belt, just give it back. And then you have nights where you do something and you go, I just tapped a black belt. Okay, we're just gonna put this feather in the cap. And Dorothea, same thing. You're like, all right, Jimmy Fallon, let's just put that right there. I feel like the feather in your cap, there's a lot more that we don't even know about.
Oh yeah.
We haven't even scratched the surface there. But I'll throw out a few people, and we've talked about this on the show before. I usually don't, but all the sponsors I have aren't really sponsors. They're local businesses. They're friends of mine. They're people who have supported the show, whether they share a video, whether they, send something in. I actually still have a knife that my friend Tim makes knives on Instagram, custom made, that we're still supposed to give away, but I'm still trying to figure out if I'm allowed to ship a knife to somebody, if that would be okay. Because it's a Bowie knife. It's very large. So we'll find that out. But people like La Barba Cubano, he makes beard care oil, which obviously I need. Keeps this from being scratchy. And what you don't know is that in jiu-jitsu, when people go for that guillotine, this is terrible for me. It's really bad. So I protect my neck as best I can for the sake of that, because I have tapped to somebody getting a handful of hair. That's it's a whole new experience. So, oh, I think we lost her for a second, but we'll get her back.
Me.
There she is.
Fat Boy Jiu Jitsu is a company in Orlando or out of that area. Makes some amazing gear. And then, of course, Bertzo's Bake Shop is also in Orlando.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. Why you keep coming in and out? You're acting. But really,
my daughter's trying to call me, and it keeps cutting off the phone.
And then, of course, there's the Quiggin Out Podcast shirt, just like this one. It was a design, and he gave him a black belt, and I felt really bad about that because I was like, I'm not a black belt. I didn't want it to be, but I said, you know what? Let's make it a black belt because it encompasses everything. And I think that's what I've taken the show in the direction of, because if you told me 2 years ago I'd have the two of you on the show, not only together, but at all, I would have said you were crazy. People would have said this has nothing to do with MMA. Why is this? But it really does. This is a community of arts. It's a community that we can all grow and learn together. And the two of you, I've said it over and over again, and I hate being a broken record, but it's true. You guys are inspiring a lot of people, and I'm so thankful that you're doing that. And I was so thankful that you came on the show today. So we'll definitely have to touch base again, talk about our experiences, the next competition you have. Hopefully, we've got some more TikTok videos that are in the millions, like your Chop Suey one, which we'll save that for next time. But on behalf of myself, Combat Press, and just everyone that's ever watched any of your videos or been inspired by your videos or your stories, thank both of you. And I hope you have a fantastic evening.
Thank you so much,
for
Matt.
having us.
Nice to meet you, Dorothea.
Nice to meet you too.